Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about how to set up your DNS configuration settings, how to set up your IP, how to do a subdomain, and then the differences between your domain host and a web host. So if you're managing your own website, if you're managing a client's website and you're having maybe this screen of death, server cannot be reached, I'm going to help you try to fix some of these issues, okay? So this is for somebody who really doesn't know a lot about this stuff, or even for someone who just is trying to get one specific piece of information. I'm going to go through all of it, so stick it through. It might have what you need, and I'm doing this on GoDaddy, but if you're using a different website for your domain or your web host, that is okay. This should work for you. You just may need to click a different box, but still put in the same information. So first of all, what is a domain host and what is a web host, right? So for that, a domain is your website's URL. For example, if you have GoDaddy, right, they're going to own your website, whether it's google.com or Facebook, whatever. Now, the only thing of real importance is that they are going to hold your DNS settings, okay? So this is the information below. This is what we're looking at here. This is the DNS, okay? Now, for your web host can be different than your domain host, okay? For my client, their domain host is GoDaddy, but their web host is Hostinger. Okay. This is the physical server where they hold your information for your website, right? Where they save your files and where they store that. Now, the only thing of real importance here is that this is where you set up your website and this is where the IP address is stored, okay? Now, the domain will point to the web server, okay? That's going to point to your IP address. Now, your domain can have a separate IP address. If your domain and your web host are the same place, awesome, okay? You point to your domain. That's the same thing as pointing to your web. However, if they're different, you may have two different IPs that you could be looking at, and that can get confusing, okay? Now, a subdomain is connected to your domain. So if you have a WordPress website and you have plugins, okay, they'll all work on your subdomain. And it's really useful if you are trying to make a testing site. One thing I'm doing right now is I'm cloning my client's website, putting it in a subdomain, and then any changes I make in the subdomain don't affect the main domain. If I make mistakes, cool, I'll delete everything and I will just re-upload the data and start all over from fresh. Once I figure it out, then I will apply those changes to the main domain. However, if you have like a web store, e-commerce store, and you want to have like different types of products, maybe one domain you want to have your like clothing and your subdomain you want to have like water bottles, you could do that, okay? It's just one way to separate information. Now, to set up your subdomain, you're going to go to your domains, DNS records, and you're going to go ahead and click add new record, okay? Now, it's going to create a box and you're going to have to input this information here. The type is going to be type A for your subdomain. It's going to be the same for your regular domain though, okay? Now the name is going to be your subdomain name. So this will be demo.google.com. Okay, it doesn't go at the end like a directory, it goes at the beginning. Then from there, you're going to type in your web server's IP address, okay? That's going to be the same as your regular website. For your domain, it's going to be the same for your subdomain. Now this @, this stands for your domain. It's just a shorthand. If it's Google, it's google.com, okay? But the main thing is to make sure not to put in your domain's IP address because that could be wrong if you host them differently. So you want to make sure that it's your web hosts. And I will show you how to double check this information, okay? Next is your name servers. I will show you where to access these. You can have 2, you can have 4. You need as many as you have. Then the last thing is the CNAME, www.google.com. This is just my client's website here. Okay, so once I go ahead and save this document, the TTL, it doesn't really matter. You can put an hour, that's the default, I think, for this website. But yeah, you save it and bam, it's done. Your subdomain is ready to go. Now, one thing, anytime you change DNS configuration settings, could take 5 minutes, could take a couple seconds. It could take up to 24 hours for everything to configure properly. I will show you how to double check that everything is going properly. So let's just move on to the next piece of information here. So this is my client's website, demo.clientswebsite.com, okay? Now this is showing Hostinger's thing right here. I have to set up the website, okay? It's like a brand new website, but it's still under their regular domain name right here. So some people have said to set up your domain, your subdomain through forwarding. Now this works if your domain host and your web host are the same. However, if you add forwarding and you set it up to have a subdomain, if you have a different web host and a different domain host, it's going to automatically set it up to your domain, and it's going to be pointing to itself, and that might be wrong, okay? If it's a different host. However, if you have the same web host as you do your domain, then it's fine, okay? That's just a heads up. Last thing about the domains is subdomains is, this is the GoDaddy's tutorial. I'll put this in the chat in the description. This just says everything I've went over, and if you want to look at it and double check it, that's fine. This is how I figured out how to do this. Now, in order to double check your host, okay, host, this is where you're going to go to a website. You're just going to type in who'shostingthis.com or something like that, right? So you're going to type in facebook.com, your website. Here's the URL up here. Then you're going to click the button. What it's going to come up with is your hosting provider. Right here, it says my clients, which is Hostinger. Down here are the name servers, okay? However many you have, that's how many you need to input on your DNS settings. Some have 2, some have more, that's okay. You should have at least 2. And then here is your correct IP address, okay? This is your host IP address. This is the one you want to look for, okay? So this is what you're going to put into your DNS settings right here, okay? And they should be the same for your domain and your subdomain. Now, that's how you find your web host. Let's say you don't know who your domain host is, okay? GoDaddy is actually the website where you go to search this up, or you just type in Google who is database, or just type in who's hosting my domain, right? There's a bunch of websites that can do this. Once again, you type in your website URL, click search, and down below under domain registrar and registrar URL, for my client, this said GoDaddy.com, right? For Facebook, I'm sure it's whoever it is. So this is your domain, right? Now, if you find this information and you don't know your login, that's okay. Okay, you can contact your web host or your domain host. They have customer service. Hopefully it's a phone number. Otherwise, you have to email them, and they want to get back to you because they're offering a service, right? So you have to tell them what's my website URL, what's my domain, same thing. And then you're going to have to maybe provide some information, but you should be paying for these services. Although the web host can sometimes be a free service, depending on how it's done. Then the last thing, after you've gotten all your account, after you've gotten everything figured out, if you change your DNS settings and you don't know if it's working or not, you can go to this website, dnschecker.org. What this does is, once again, you type in your website URL, you click search, right? Now, what this is going to come up with is the DNS servers worldwide, seeing if they've propagated or not. Meaning, once you change the settings, seeing if all the servers know that you've made this change and they're pointing to the right place. Okay, these IP addresses here, okay, there may be 2 different ones. Okay, these are the ones that you input into your DNS settings. So if it's input wrong, it will propagate wrong, and it'll show you these green check marks even if it's not correct. Remember, host IP. If it's correct, then yeah, if it's all green, then it should be up. However, we do have server fails every now and then over here. Once again, this can take, a couple minutes. It can take up to 24 hours. So if you know your DNS is set up, if you know your IP is correct, if this website is showing that everything's still loading, wait, don't touch anything, right? I know. So it'll just take some time. And with that, that's pretty much everything you need to know about managing your own DNS settings or for a client. If you feel like this is too technical or complicated for you, I mean, yeah, people on Fiverr do this for a living. I will put in my Fiverr information if you would like to hire me in my description down below. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to leave a comment, ask a comment, to help each other out. So I hope this helped. Have a great day.